Hello and welcome to Pulibrus' Fireside Chats. Not as good as FDR's, but hey, it's something. Now, I expect this episode to be a bit of a long one because of the subject matter that I chose to be the subject of this video. But, who cares? Might as well talk about it. But before we get into that, let's get right into the news. First, we're going to go over some really good news. Jair Bolsonaro and SHENANIGANS both have the coronavirus. Aw, yeah. You know, I was thinking that 2020 was going to be a bad year, but this year shows that everything is coming up Millhouse. I mean, and now you might say, come on, isn't that a bit mean? These world leaders have a very deadly disease, and, isn't this really bad? No, fuck both of these people. Screw them. I don't give a shit about either of these guys. In fact, Jair Bolsonaro, he was talking about how, he was, being very lax in the COVID crisis to begin with. He gets what he deserves. And SHENANIGANS, remember, she overthrew the democratically elected Evo Morales. Oh yeah, and here's a funnier thing. The candidate of Morales' party, he's expected to beat her in one round. For these elections they usually do 2 rounds, but like Evo Morales, he's just so popular that they're legitimately just like, yeah, we're gonna vote for this guy overwhelmingly because we agree with his platform the most. It's just pretty funny. Everything is coming up Millhouse. Want to show how everything's still coming up Millhouse? Here's another news story. The Dakota Access Pipeline to shut down pending review, federal judge rules. The Dakota Access Pipeline, an oil route from North Dakota to Illinois that has inspired intense protests and legal battles, must shut down pending an environmental review and be emptied of oil by August 5th, a district court ruled on Monday. The decision, which could be subject to an appeal, is, overwhelmingly a victory. I was reading that, and then immediately the Times said, hey, you gotta give me the money. But I'm not gonna give them the money, screw them. This is a good thing. The Dakota Access Pipeline, this was seen as one of the issues of 2016. Remember, that was the reason why people took Jill Stein seriously, and one of the first things that many people saw as a betrayal of Elizabeth Warren. And now it's been ruled, you know what? Yeah, this is stupid. No more Dakota Access Pipeline. Looks like I see this as an overall win. And of course the indigenous people are seeing this as an overall win. But maybe, I don't know if they see this as more of a win than this next story. But, it could be either or. They could see both. To be fair, they could see both as a win. You don't have to necessarily be like, oh, this is a win or this is a win. There could be 2 wins. But whatever, let's just move on to the next story. The U.S. Supreme Court rules that half of Oklahoma is Native American land. The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that about half of Oklahoma belongs to Native Americans in a landmark case that also quashed a child rape conviction. The justices decided 5-4 that the eastern chunk of the state, including the second biggest city of Tulsa, should be recognized as part of a reservation. Jimmy McGirt, who was convicted in 1997 of raping a girl, brought the case. He cited the historical claim of the Muskogee Creek Nation that the land was where the assault occurred. What does the ruling mean? Thursday's decision in McGirt v. Oklahoma is seen as the most far-reaching cases for Native Americans before the highest U.S. court in decades. The ruling means that some tribe members found guilty in state courts for offenses committed on the land at issues can now be challenged about their convictions. Only federal prosecutors will have the power to criminally prosecute Native Americans accused of crimes in the area. Tribe members who live within the boundaries may also be exempt from state taxes, according to a Reuters news agency. Some 1.8 million people of whom about 15% are Native Americans, live on the land, which spans 3 million acres. Gorsuch sided with the court's 4 liberals and wrote the opinion. Also, Gorsuch was the one who kind of did this. He referred to the Trail of Tears, the forcible 19th century relocation of Native Americans, including Creek Nation, to Oklahoma. The U.S. government said at times that the new land would belong to the tribes perpetually. Justice Gorsuch wrote, "Today we are asked whether the land these treaties promised remains an Indian reservation for purposes of federal criminal law. Because Congress has not said otherwise, we will hold the government to its word." So, we're going to do the U.S. is going to do something that we don't really think of doing. We're actually going to pay attention to Native American treaties. This is so unorthodox. This just never happens, dude. Can you seriously name one time where we actually gave a shit about Native American treaties? Nope. Not a one. This is going to be the first time that we do this. And ironically, apparently Gorsuch is the one who decided this. It's interesting. And yeah. I guess there's another thing I could say about this. Fred Harris would be... Wait. Is Fred Harris still alive? Does he have a Twitter? I want to see what Fred Harris has to say about this. For those who don't know who Fred Harris is, he was like the senator of Oklahoma at one point. And he was like this extremely lefty judge who was like fighting for a lot of Native American rights and such. I can't find a Twitter of him or if he's still alive. He's still alive, but I can't find a Twitter, so I guess I better just move on. This is very interesting. And again, this is like a huge thing for Native people. And great. Cool. Let's see how this goes. I don't know exactly how this is going to translate. Like, will this land legitimately go back to natives? Because I have a feeling that somebody along the way is going to just say, nah, we're not going to do that. But who knows? Maybe this will actually happen and then we'll be happy. And now, the final piece of the puzzle. The final candidate that will appear on the ballot in most states has been officially nominated. The Green Party just held their convention the day I'm recording this, and here are the results. Howie Hawkins won 210 delegates, Daria Hunter won 102, Sedenmoyawasifa Curry won 11.5, Dennis Lambert won 8.5, Jesse Ventura won 7, David Rold won 4.5, Ken Mesplay won 2, Susan Lojicki won 1, Bernie Sanders won 0.5, and Uncommitted won 8 delegates. So, that's pretty cut and dry for the Green Party. Like everybody's been saying, the Green Party nominated Howie with, like, no complications. Of course, there were some people who were, like, the extreme anti-Howie wing that were like, no, the contest will be, the convention will be contested, and it will be big, bad, and evil, and we will show the truth. But no, that didn't happen. People said that was going to happen to Joe Stein, but that didn't end up happening. Sorry, buddy. I want to give a big round of applause to some of the candidates that ran. You know, Kent Mesplay, Senator Curry, Dennis Lambert, Susan Lojicki. Though to be fair, Susan, she didn't run that. I mean, I didn't notice her that much, to be honest. The rest of the candidates were, like, at least big enough to make names for themselves and such. They ran good campaigns, and, you know, big shout out to them. Give them a round of applause. A pat on the back. I left some candidates out because of certain things. For one, Chad didn't run a good campaign. He was pretty much campaigning purely for Jesse Ventura. He campaigned more for Jesse Ventura than he did himself, which is stupid if you want to be taken as legitimately serious political candidates. Spend time campaigning for yourself, not for Jesse. It's dumb. I didn't mention David Rold because fuck him. David Rold. He was one of the, like, of all the candidates, only certain number of them met a certain criteria to get them to be able to give a speech at the convention. That was like Hawkins, Hunter, Curry, Lambert, Rold. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. They were given, those 5 candidates were told, you can give a speech, thanking your supporters or bringing an issue to attention or whatever. Each of them were given 5 minutes. Well, I mean, then Howie was given more when he became the nominee. But each of them were given 5 minutes. And each of them, SHENANIGANS, she didn't show up, I guess. It sucks. Would like to hear her give a speech. It's like, oh man. Dang it. Hunter went in on all the, corruption around Howie and such. Lambert went similarly. Hawkins, of course, did not do that. He pretty much gave like a thank you to all of his supporters. You know what David Rold did during his, victory speech? Well, not victory speech, like his campaign speech. Do you know what he did? He spent his speech, for the most part, bullshitting this coronavirus conspiracy. Like, he's like, wearing the masks is actually the deep state trying to mind control us into going inside of our house to control the media and all that other stuff. We need to stop 5G. and then like at the end, he's like, oh, by the way, Howie Hawkins, he stole the nomination. Seriously. He infuriates me so much. Just, what the fuck, dude? Degrees. You're trying to be taken seriously, David. Go away. Run the state chair. Fine, do that. But you're just not right. He was like, oh, how could you soft imperial, that shit. This is... How did David Rold be taken as a serious candidate and not SHENANIGANS? SHENANIGANS... Come on, you can see it legitimately infuriates me. Like, why the hell? Like, this is a guy who said, victory to Hezbollah, restore the Soviet Union, 5G causes coronavirus, and you're just like, this guy's a serious candidate. No, he's not. He's done nothing. He stands outside of buildings, protests. Every single speech he made during the campaign, he's like, I just want to be clear, we are on stolen Native American land. It's like, no shit, David. No shit. We all took basic history in high school. You don't get extra points for pointing this out. That's literally what he's trying to do. He's just trying to get bonus points so that, like, super liberals will be like, oh, yes, yes. Now there is a chance that David Rold might be seeing this right now. And he might take personal offense to all these comments. I do not care. You literally you carried a sign that had the flag of Israel flying into the Twin Towers and then said Zionists caused 9/11 and that was a false flag operation. I don't give a shit about your opinion of me. Now, I know there also might be people who watch this who might be friends with David Rold. You can disagree, that's fine. But just know, if me and David Rold end up going in the same room together, don't try to introduce us. I'm not going to be friendly to him. Let's give a special shout out to SHENANIGANS and Ian because they actually came on my show. Those two top tier. Green Party ticket of Sydenham and Schlockman. No, Curry Schlockman. Curry Schlockman would have been a cool ticket too. Would have been pretty, as the kids say, based. Schlockman, you don't get to be the head of the ticket. You already had a ticket where you had a black woman as your second fiddle. Now you get to be the second fiddle. But yeah, legitimately, I'm pretty okay with Hawkins and Walker as the ticket for the Green Party right now. You know, the other tickets, the other candidates, minus David Rold, obviously. Chad Wilson, yeah. They would have been fine. All the other candidates would have been pretty fine. I would have been down with these guys. All the candidates, they seem cool. They all have their flaws. They all have their ups and downs. And I went into them in an episode. My episode about, like, progressive alternatives to Bernie. You know, they all have their ups. They all have their downs. But at the end of the day, Hawkins is the nominee now. We can just cry and we can, discuss all of the reasons and the badness that got Howie to the nomination process. Some legitimate, some not. I take the status of objective truth and will hear both sides of the argument. But there's some things that Howie says that are just like, sorry, bro, no, just nah. Like, he went on the Humanist Report and said, he said, Ian Schlockman's full of it. And I'm like, no, not entirely. Nah. And there was like an official explanation for that whole North Carolina Green Party thing, where Howie was the only one on the ballot. And I'm like, yeah, this is supposed to be the legitimate reason, but it still seems weird. Like, it still seems stupid. I don't get it. I even tried to propose like an actual compromise and try to like propose these new reforms. None of the Greens are actually taking it on to the momentum, so I guess that's the end of that. But not entirely the end of that. You see, another candidate that I did not mention as running a good campaign a little bit ago was Dario Hunter, the runner-up, because his campaign is not over. He released a statement on Twitter saying that he wants the Green Party, people who cast their ballots for Hunter Elias during the primary, to cast their votes for Hunter Elias one more time. That's right. Apparently, Dario is going to run as an independent Green in the general election. Okay, and I just checked. I just saw someone who was sharing my article, Darlene Elias of the ticket herself, who went on to elaborate that it is a writing campaign. Okay, that's slightly less serious. Look, I mean, if he was actually trying to get on the ballot, I don't remember him explicitly saying in the video that he was doing it as a writing campaign. The video, he says, like, I want you to cast your vote for me one more time. I know that the ballot access may be limited, but we can make it work. So I think it's going to be a mixed thing. Like, he's going to do, like, some states he's going to be writing, some states he's going to actually try and get on, like, try to see if he can get on the ballot line or whatever. It will be interesting to see, I guess. But, there's the question of, like, logistics and such. Like, how far is this campaign going to go? But, I mean, I guess there is technically a route for Dario. But the thing is, I don't know what this means, really, for Dario moving forward. I mean, if the party is as corrupt and, like, split off-ish as it is, then what's Dario going to do in 2024 if he wants to run for president again, or if he wants to run for a higher office? Is he just going to walk back to the Greens? There's some people who have been saying, like, this campaign is just going to end in, like, a couple months. I mean, yeah, and this is just it's a strange method But I mean, I'm not gonna say like Dario shouldn't do it. He's free to do whatever the hell he wants. Will I be supporting Dario? No. Because, as he himself states in the video, there are certain states where it's just not gonna happen. One of those states happens to be my home state of North Carolina, which is, the ballot deadline is just, it's not there. My ballot is full. I get to choose either neoliberal Joe, neocon Trump, Joe Jorgensen, who I should probably make a video, debunking her as well, like telling people do not vote for her. I'm thinking that'll probably be the next one. It's 100% going to be the next one. I guarantee you that. The Don Blankenship, the person who is pretending to be Trump, but is, I guess you could arguably say worse, and Howie Hawkins, a person who, I agree with on a lot of issues. And here's the thing, no matter who I vote for, I'm gonna piss off quite a few people. If I vote Trump, a ton of people are gonna get pissed. If I vote Jorgensen, a ton of people are gonna get pissed. If I vote for Howie, a ton of people are gonna get pissed. Blankenship or Biden, a ton of people are gonna get pissed. But here's the thing, if I vote for Howie, I can get people pissed and be ideologically consistent. So I'm gonna be voting for Howie Hawkins coming November. The only way that I'm not gonna be voting for Howie Hawkins in November is if he fucking dies. So yeah, I'm gonna say that counts as the smaller candidate of the day. Dario Hunter is the smaller candidate of the day. With that out of the way, I guess we're gonna move on to the main topic of this video. The Senate races for 2020. Now, I'm not just gonna talk about how are progressives gonna fare in these races. No. I'm actually gonna go over all of the Senate races. I'm not necessarily sure if I'm gonna make predictions, because, I don't want to be proven wrong. I'm gonna have to at least wait until we're closer enough to the election where things are gonna be more finalized. This is just gonna be like broad predictions, I guess. And we're gonna go through all of them. I'm not gonna stop at certain points and be like, okay, I guess I'm done for the day. No, I'm gonna go through all of them. Gonna explain, who's the most likely to win the primaries, I guess, then who's going to move on to the general election, how they're gonna do in the general election, I guess. So yes, I guess I will be doing predictions. First, here's the current breakdown of the Senate. The Republicans have 53 seats, 45 are Democrats, and 2 are independents, and the 2 independents caucus with the Democrats, so that 45 becomes 47. There are 12 Democrats up for election, 23 Republicans up for election, none of the independents are up for re-election, and the Democrats need 3 or 4 seats to win. 4 senators are retiring, 1 Democrat and 3 Republicans. Okay? And there's a lot of pressure. This is the make or break election. There's a lot of pressure to flip the Senate. Democrats are seeing this is the opportunity, which is why they're tipping the scales in quite a few Senate seats, because they're really desperate to flip something. The first seat we're going to talk about is a flipper, but not necessarily in the Democrats' favor. The Senate race in Alabama. Oh boy. The Alabama Senate race. This is literally the Senate race so far. Doug Jones is the Democratic nominee. He faced no Democratic challengers, even though there was claims that one of the guys who called he called a Trump Jr. A certain R word, but that sucks. It's a bad idea. Probably shouldn't do that. But Jones didn't have to face him, but because whatever. But the real kind of thing is the Republican primary. Because here's the thing. Here are the 2 people who have made it to the runoff. Tommy Tuberville, the former Auburn's Tiger football coach. Okay. Who's the other guy? Jeff Sessions, the former Attorney General and former person who held this seat. Now this has actually been a bit weird. You see, there was a little bit of a debate over you see, Trump, he apparently really does not like Sessions. He really does not like Sessions. So he's avoiding Tuberville. And, this is a really bad thing. The runoff, here's how the runoff polls have been going so far. The first one, Sessions was winning. Second poll, Tuberville, tie. Tuberville. Yeah. Sessions is on his way to lose to a football coach. I have no shame in saying that is 100% funny. Now you might say, okay, cool, but what does this mean going into the general election? Will Doug Jones be able to hold him off? No. Literally every poll says right here, lean R, likely R, lean R, likely R, lean R. As much as the Democrats are desperately trying to keep the seat, it's not happening. It's not happening. Literally every poll, both with Sessions and Tuberville, show Jones losing. The only one where Jones is close to winning is a tie with Sessions. Literally the only candidate that Jones could have beaten was Roy Moore. That's the problem. The Republicans actually learned their lesson and decided, let's not nominate Roy Moore again. So, that's just it. The end. Tuberville is going to more than likely be the nominee and more than likely going to be the Senate candidate coming. He's going to be the senator, probably. The next seat is Alaska. Alaska, weird. They have a weird way of holding their elections. Let me explain. You see, there's a Republican primary, obviously, but since the Democratic Party, Libertarian Party, and Independence Party, since these guys have such little, they have, the Republican Party is pretty much a dominant force in Alaskan politics. But these three groups, they are pretty much equal amount. Democrats, Libertarians, and Independents, they all pretty much, coalesce with each other, and then whoever wins the primary will have all of their support going into the general. And it's funny because, Democrats, of course, they try to pin themselves oh, we're center-left. And then, Libertarians are, of course, Libertarian right. And then Alaskan Independence is like PaleoCon. So, all these groups are oh, we're going to run together. So, of course, it's leading into some weird things. And the Democrats, they don't even allow independents to seek their nominations. Which has paved the way for Al Gross, who is an orthopedic surgeon and fisherman. There are quite a few other people running. Chris Cummings is running as an independent. Edgar Blatchford is running as a Democrat. He was a candidate for Senate in 2016. John Howe is running as an Alaskan Independence Party candidate. And one of them will be facing up against Dan Sullivan. The most likely contender is going to be Al Gross. Al Gross, he's the DSCC endorsed candidate, who's also endorsed by DUH, and, DUH being Demand Universal Health Care, and for some reason is also being endorsed by people like Gross is being endorsed by, DUH, and, the DSCC and Humanity Forward and End Citizens United. It's what? I don't see him getting any of your support. Why are you good people supporting him too? Why are you the good people supporting him too? I don't get it. There's also going to be Green candidate Jed Whittaker, who ran as a Republican once, so I don't trust him. And there's going to be an independent who's not going to be seeking the Democratic nomination, called Sid Hill, who's a Lyndon LaRouche advocate. This seat is going to probably stay red. Let's just be real. He's, as much as the Democrats are like, we need to try and win this seat, it's going to be red, 100%. There's no Mike Gravel in this Senate race. It's going to stay red, 100%. Now, the next Senate race is one that is going to be big and notable. The Senate race of Arizona. Remember, this was John McCain's seat. But due to Arizona's last Senate race, this one could be a flipper. This is one of the high-profile seats that could potentially flip. Here are the candidates. The only two notable Republicans to note about are Daniel McCarthy, who's a skincare executive, and the incumbent senator, Martha McSally. Now, Martha McSally, you may know, she was not originally the appointee for the seat. You see, here's what happened. John McCain died, so they appointed John Keel, who was the former senator, to be in the seat. Then John Keel, he openly stated, I'm just going to keep the seat warm. I'm not going to run in the next election, which I was like, okay, that's notable. That's noble. I respect that. Then John Keel said, I think that the next senator should actually be inaugurated with the new Congress. So I will step down, and I think you should appoint someone else to be the senator. I suggest we should appoint Martha McSally, the person who ran against Kyrsten Sinema. Which was obviously just a Republican power grab, and, fuck the Republicans for doing that, it's stupid. But, that's just Republicanism for you. And, of course, they're like, Democrats want to see if this seat could be flipped. So, quite a few people tried to seek the nomination, but then they decided, a decent amount of them didn't manage to meet the deadline. So inevitably, DSCC endorsed Mark Kelly is pretty much the presumptive nominee for the Democrats. He's the husband of former Representative Gabby Giffords, who you may remember was literally shot and then became a fierce gun control advocate. Now, there are a couple more candidates running, but they're all running as write-ins. So inevitably, it's pretty much going to just be Kelly or McSally going into the general. Now, this is where things get interesting. You see, here are the current, predictions. Predictions for many prominent political sources say, like the earliest one says likely D, but the most current one says tilt D. Again, this seat is a notable contender for flipping. That's why you think the DSCC felt the need to put themselves into the seat. And polling shows Mark Kelly winning quite a few times. Let me do it again. Kelly, McSally, Kelly, 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 McSally, Kelly, 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 Ty, Kelly, McSally, McSally, McSally. You see, there were a lot of Kellys, not enough McSallys, if you catch my drift. Now, of course, that's led to some people saying, well, can McSally save herself? I don't know. This seems like almost a done deal for McSally. Not going to be too, keen and too 100% straightforward, but I'm just going to say this could more than likely be seen as a flipper. Yes, no doubt. This next Senate seat will be interesting for a couple of reasons. This is the Senate seat in Arkansas. Currently, there are 2, possibly 3 candidates. You see, here's what happened. Tom Cotton is the incumbent, who's a Republican, Now there's a Libertarian named Ricky Harrington Jr. But then there was the Democrat, who was Josh Mahoney, who dropped out and then decided, like, after he dropped out, there was no way for the Democrats to file a replacement, so he ran unopposed. Then there was an independent named Dan Whitfield, who was a progressive, but his petition didn't have significant signatures, and then Whitfield, he pretty much said, like, he went to the Court of Appeals to overrule this, but, its case is still being determined, so I'm going to leave him on my site until there's a definitive yes-no if he stays in the race. But it seems like, again, this one is just pretty much a done deal. Cotton will win, obviously, but, there is potential Ricky Harrington Jr. wins, but, it's a bit unlikely. Okay. The next one is the Senate race in Colorado. Senate race that they also needed to get heavily involved in. By they, of course, I mean the DNC. Cory Gardner was the Republican senator. I mean, not was, he currently is. John Hickenlooper is the Democratic nominee. Romanoff putting up the best effort to try and challenge him. There are quite a few independents running. The only notable ones would be Raymond Doan of the Libertarian Party and Stephen Evans from the Unity Party. There was a Socialist Party person who was running, but apparently she fled the country. But, that sucks, but I can't help her at this point. So yeah, much like Arizona, this seat was seen as, like, whoever, like, this is why progressives, we put in a lot of effort and time into this Senate seat, because we were like, because this seat is, again, one of the very big likely ones to flip. So we're like, if we could get Andrew Romanoff in this, we can have another progressive in the Senate. It didn't entirely work because Hickenlooper, he just had so much name recognition, and the DSCC put literally all of their money into him that it was just like, it was almost an impossible battle. And again, like, just, if you look at any of the polls, Hickenlooper's winning all of them. So Hickenlooper's more than likely going to be the next senator from Colorado. Either way, we get no Medicare for all from this Senate seat, which, I mean, if one of them actually did say that they supported Medicare for all, that'd be one thing, but the thing is, neither of them do. In fact, they are openly stating that they will not support Medicare for all, so, done deal. I don't like any of them. Fuck them. Okay, so the next Senate seat is the Senate seat from Delaware. This Senate seat, it's a democratically held seat, currently held by Chris Coons, and Jessica Skrain is seeking to challenge him from the left. People were expecting maybe Carrie Evelyn Harris, but, it's not necessarily a done deal. In fact, it was actually weird. It was like this. There were actually polls indicating that a more liberal female Democrat would win, but I don't know if that's going to be the case. Could be. They haven't done any specific polls on this particular substance. I don't know. The Republican primary is going to be a Republican nominee for the Delaware House of Representatives or conservative activist Lauren Witzke. There's no polling on this indication, so we don't know if it's going to be, James or Lauren. But if I were to make a guess, it would be James, just because he, has prior elected experience. And Coons is more than likely going to win the primary. So, I mean, it's going to be safety regardless. So, progressives, if we can, flip this one, not flip it to the Republicans, obviously. Screw them. But, make this into a big, flips a crane to be the senator. Why not? Let's do it. Let's do it, fam. Let's do it. Okay. So, the next Senate race is the normally scheduled Senate race in Georgia. The main candidates will be David Perdue and John Ossoff, with Libertarian Shane T. Hazel and some independents thrown into the mix. Now this one is expected to lean R, but a lot of people are still trying to make this into like a big possible flip blue. You know, because they're like, oh, you know, we must flip this seat blue. Because there are some polls that have Ossoff winning, but not that many. It's like 3 minus the 4 that have Purdue winning and the 1 where they tie. So I guess technically is flippable, and it only shows lean and tilt R. So I guess there is potential for this seat, but personally, Ossoff, I mean, look at his endorsements. Hank Johnson, John Lewis, was he the DSCC endorsed? Oh, I guess DSCC didn't really pay attention to this seat. Ted Terry, who was running as a progressive alternative to him originally, you know, tried to do this. There was apparently someone who was claiming to be a progressive alternative, like, I think it was Tessa Thompson, who was running with the support of Democracy for America, but was also running with the support of, like, Swalwell. They didn't support anybody in this primary because none of them really actually seemed to be progressive. No Medicare for all, no deal. Okay, so anyways, now on the special election. This one is slightly different because due to the special election nature, it's going to be a jungle primary, as in everybody gets to run in one election and then move on to a runoff, where the top 2 voters, regardless of primary affiliation, get to be, you know, the nominee. There are quite a few Republicans: Derek Grayson, Annette Davis Jackson, Kelly Loeffler, who's the incumbent senator who was appointed here, and Doug Collins. You see, there's also quite a few Democrats and, you know, a lot of other people running. There's Deborah Jackson, the former mayor of Lithuania, Jamisa James, Tamara Johnson-Shillelagh, Matt Lieberman, who's the son of Joe Lieberman, which means I automatically hate him, Ed Tarver, a former U.S. attorney of Southern District of Georgia, Ralph Warnock, a reverend and pastor, Richard Dean Winfield, a professor and candidate for Georgia's 10th congressional district in 2018. And there's pretty clearly a divide. Warnock is the Democratic choice for this seat. You know, he's gotten the endorsements of, like, all of the Democratic senators, the DSCC, the Congressional Black Caucus PAC, and John Ossoff. There's some minor candidates, but there's really not much to mention, because inevitably it really is just... Oh wait, I closed the results before I even before I told you what the results were going to be. The speculation is more than likely going to be that Collins is going to win the seat. Like, it's really, like, the polls really do point at Collins. Like, it's going to be a Republican. It's going to be Loeffler v. Collins. Then Collins is going to win because he's more of an appealment to the Trump base. You know, which is why many people were like, maybe he should have been the one appointed and not Loeffler. You see, the Republicans, they wanted to appoint Loeffler to the seat because they thought that Loeffler would mean more women would start supporting the Republican Party. But in actuality, that did not happen. And what instead happened was that they were able to make Loeffler seem as the establishment Republican, whereas Collins could campaign as, like, I'm going to fight alongside Trump and blah, 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 blah. The next Senate race is the Senate race in Idaho. Jim Risch is the incumbent senator who won 100% of the votes, and former state representative and nominee for governor of Idaho in 2018, Paulette Jordan, is the current Democratic nominee. Paulette Jordan was endorsed by people like Deb Haaland, the Breaking Bad actor Aaron Paul. I mean, so the Constitution Party is running Ray Ritz, and an independent named Natalie Fleming is also running. She seems like she ran as an Our Revolution endorsed candidate in like the last election, but I don't really see her giving me like actual policies. You know, her healthcare platform is like, oh, I will campaign for us to get the best healthcare. And it's like, so does that mean Medicare for all or not? Let me check. Was she Our Revolution endorsed for the Idaho seat? Yes, she was. But like I said, a gubernatorial bid is a little different than a Senate bid. For a gubernatorial bid, it's okay if you don't run on Medicare for all. But for a Senate bid, you kind of got to. And, you know, she's saying, I want data-based healthcare. Okay, but what does that mean? But what does that mean, though? She won't explain what that means. That's why it sucks that she is the nominee. I mean, if she's actually good on the policies, that's fine, but I'd like to know that. Can you actually tell me that you're good on the policies? Okay, so the next Senate race is Illinois. Dick Durbin is the incumbent, and he had two people who were supposedly going to run against him in the primary. They didn't. Mark Curran, the former Lake County sheriff, will be his Republican opponent. There will be quite a few minor party candidates, like the Constitution Party candidate Chad Coppey, Green Party candidate David Black, the Libertarian nominee Dan Maloof, and some independents like Patrick Fegus and Willie Wilson. Willie Wilson is probably the most well-known of the bunch, and I'm currently endorsing Fegus, but if he doesn't make it on the ballot, it'll probably be David Black. It's a safe D, so there's not really much else to say. Okay, so the next Senate seat is the Iowa Senate seat. Joni Ernst is the incumbent, and Theresa Greenfield, who was a former candidate for like a down-the-ballot race, ran as is currently her Democratic opponent. She was the DSCC endorsed favorite, and there's going to be the Libertarian Party candidate and an independent named Susan Herzog as in the race. Currently, the most recent polls show toss-up. This is one of the Senate seats that many people have been saying is likely in play. And the most recent polls do have Greenfield in the lead. So this is a potential flipper. There's not much else I can really say on this. This one's more likely to flip. Next Senate seat is Kansas. Kansas is interesting for quite a few reasons. You know, but the most interesting reason to me is that there is a Republican socialist named Brian Matlock running for the Republican nomination. Will he win? No, he 100% will not. Chris Kobach, the former Secretary of State of Kansas and Republican nominee for governor of Kansas, is more than likely going to be the Republican nominee. And they might say, well, why aren't you endorsing, like, a Democratic opponent to, like, Barbara Bollier or something? Barbara Bollier is the DSCC endorsed candidate who was a Republican before 2018. And her Democratic opponent, Robert Tilleman, is in no better position to be the nominee than Brian Matlock is. So, Either way, I'm endorsing a loser, so might as well endorse a loser that looks pretty cool. Now, this seat was projected to be, a toss-up, but, it's mixed. It's mostly toss-up, but it's more likely going to lean R. Currently, here's the polling between Chris Kobach and Barbara Bollier. Bollier, Kobach, Bollier, Kobach tie. So Bollier might pull through against Kobach, but, let's say hypothetically one of our other opponents, Roger Marshall or Bob Hamilton, make it in. It doesn't look too bright for her in those scenarios. So Kobach is probably her best case scenario. The next Senate race is the Kentucky Senate race with Bitch McConnell. Now, as we all know, Charles Booker may have gotten this seat, stolen from him. So, currently, the people who are going into the general election will be Amy McGrath, Mitch McConnell, and their former party nominee got dropped. He withdrew. Whoops. The Libertarian nominee of Brett Barron. Those are the three people who are going to be on the ballot in the general. Now you might say, was making this election worth it? Will Amy McGrath pull through? Alright, let's see. McConnell, McGrath, tie, McConnell. No. 100% was not. Seriously, this is like a safe R seat. The Democrats, I remember I heard somebody say, the only reason they preferred Booker to win was that so that the Democrats wouldn't have to spend $1 million on this seat. Because with Amy McGrath, they're going to spend millions of dollars on the seat thinking that they can win. When they cannot. Okay, the next Senate race is Louisiana. Kentucky's a deep red, and Louisiana's probably also deep red. They're going to also do a jungle primary, so it's going to be a little more interesting. You see, Bill Cassidy is the incumbent senator, and there are quite a few Democrats running. The only one worth mentioning is the one I'm endorsing, Antoine Pierce. There are a couple independents, but this is a safe R seat, and not even one of those ones where it's safe R, lean R. No, it's just completely safe R. No ifs, ands, or buts. Safe R. This next one is quite another contentious one. The Maine Senate race. Maine, Suzanne Collins is, of course, the presumptive Republican nominee. The Democratic primary is where things are going to get more interesting. There are currently 3 candidates in the race. Sarah Gideon, Bree Kidman, and Betsy Sweet. Sarah Gideon is the DSCC-endorsed corporate moderate centrist safe option. Bree Kidman is a Rose Caucus-endorsed newfangled socialist type, eat the rich, folk. And Betsy Sweet is running your traditional grassroots progressive a la Paul Wellstone. This seat will be chosen via ranked choice voting, which has paved the way for quite a few independents to also seek, nominations for the seat. Joshua Narn, Tiffany Bond, Stephen Galeve, Lee Hawes, Max Lin, Daniel Van Helsing, Linda Wooten, and most prominently, Lisa Savage, who's running as the technically Green nominee. She was originally seeing the Green Independent Party nomination, but then, there was apparently this whole thing where I was it's probably not going to be easy for me to win, so, probably going to have to do this, solo. So, yeah, since it's going to be ranked choice voting, there's not really too much put into the idea of like spoiler myth controversy. But the real interesting thing is, of course, how will this end up being in the general election? This is another seat that is likely to flip. Literally, the only poll that has been done on this seat shows, like, Sarah Gideon v. Suzanne Collins, flip. Sweet v. Collins, flip. You know, that's the thing. Many people would have tried to, like, say, like, oh, if we show Gideon v. Collins, you know, it'll flip. But if we do Sweet versus Collins, flip. No, I mean, like the Colorado Senate seat, whoever is the nominee of the Democrats is more likely going to take the progressive or whatever vote, because, like, again, it's ranked choice voting, so people who are going to be like, oh, I don't like Sarah Gideon, so I'm going to vote for Lisa Savage, they're going to be like, okay, but you'll support Gideon on round 2, right? Oh yeah, definitely. We need to get rid of Suzanne Collins, it's number 1 priority. So in the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Suzanne Collins is probably going to be out. I'd prefer Betsy Sweet be it, but, you know, Lisa Savage could also be it, or Bree Kidman. Sarah Gideon? No. Screw Sarah Gideon. But, you know, ranked choice voting, it means it's gonna give her the seat, so whatever. Okay, so the next Senate seat is the Massachusetts Senate seat. This one is quite contentious. You see, it's not contentious because of the general election. This is widely expected to be a solid blue seat. No duh, it's Massachusetts. But here's where things are going to get iffy. Okay, so of course, Shiva Ayyadurai, who ran as an independent in 2018, he's more likely going to be the nominee of the Republicans. But the real contention is Joe Kennedy III v. Ed Markey. Both of the two have an advantage in regards to the race. Markey has the advantage of being the incumbent. Joe has the advantage of being a Kennedy. Now, originally, you'd think that the advantage of incumbency might hold more precedent, but polls do indicate that Kennedy will more than likely be, at least poll-wise, he's the favorite to win. Now, you might say progressives could have brought a whole lot of momentum into Markey, but there's one problem. COVID-19. COVID-19 kind of put a stop to all that. So that means, you know, Kennedy's advantage of being named a Kennedy might take precedent. Okay, so the next Senate race is Michigan. Gary Peters versus John James. Peters is the incumbent Democrat, and it's a safe blue seat. So, yeah, literally all the polls except for like 2 show Peters winning, so, you know, it's not necessarily going to be a particularly contentious seat. Okay, so the next one is Minnesota. Minnesota is currently held by, you know, a Democratic farmer labor candidate by the name of Tina Smith. The only worthwhile opponent we should mention is the one I'm endorsing by the name of Paula Overby. The Republicans, you know, the most likely nominee of the Republicans is going to be a former U.S. representative named Jason Lewis. Just throwing that out there. And there are going to be two opponents in the general election: the Grassroots Legalized Cannabis Party and the Legal Marijuana Now Party. And I might say, why are there 2 parties? I think I should probably get into that at one point in the future, but basically all you need to know is that there is some differences in the policies that do indicate that there is difference. One of the differences would be, I think, the transgender policy. Legal Marijuana Now Party says that they are pro-trans, and like Grassroots Legalized Cannabis Party says that they're like, they claim that the GLC are not pro-trans. But, you know, this is a safe D seat, so whoever wins the Democratic primary, which I'm hoping is Paula, but is more than likely going to be Tina, is, you know, going to be the one who ends up winning overall. Okay, so the next Senate seat is Mississippi. Cindy Hyde-Smith versus Mike Espy. A rematch of the 2018 Senate race. And much like the 2018 Senate race, I expect literally no difference. These two are literally going to lose. I mean, Smith is going to lose in the fact that history books are going to remember her as a sucky senator, and Mike Espy is going to lose because he's a fucking loser. Now, to be fair, do I think Jensen Bronin could have done any better? It is Mississippi. I mean, Dem Soch. It's not like this is a competitive seat, but it's a seat. The next Senate race is Montana. Steve Daines versus Steve Bullock. Bullock, of course, dropping his failed presidential bid to appear into this race. Now, this is another potential flipper. You know, people are seeing that this could be a potential winning seat. There have been 4 polls done in this seat. Bullock is winning 3 of them and is tied with Daines in the last one. I don't necessarily trust the Green Party candidate because, you know, the Montana Green Party openly stated that they were not going to run a candidate in this seat, but then magically out of the blue, they all of a sudden have candidates in every single seat. And Wendy, the current one, was a Republican plant that was put into the seat, whereas she had an opponent who was a Democratic plant who was trying to make it so that he would win the nominee so that he could give the nomination up to Bullock. It's like, it's pretty interesting. Okay. So the next Senate race is the Senate race in Nebraska, which is also quite a bit of a contentious seat. And by contentious, I of course have nothing to do with the policy, you know, safe all through and through. The contention comes from the Democratic nominee, Chris Janikek. Chris Janikek apparently posted some sexually explicit text messages to a female campaign staffer and allegedly used racial slurs to, you know, try and, you know, to insult someone in the past. Not necessarily good, Chris. In fact, so much that the Democrats were literally begging him, please drop out so we can endorse someone else. And he was like, nah, I'm good. So, I mean, Sassy has really nothing to worry about, to be honest. Okay, so the next Senate race is in New Hampshire. The New Hampshire Senate race, of course, Janine Shaheen is the incumbent Democrat. And the Republicans have quite a few contenders. They have Don Bolduc, who is a former U.S. Special Forces Brigadier General. Andy Martin, who is a perennial candidate. But I'm going to take a wild guess and say Bolduc. No? I don't know. Corky Messer apparently has the endorsements of Donald Trump and Ron Paul. So, you know, I'm going to say it's either going to be, you know, Bolduc or Messner. One of those two is going to be the nominee. There's also Justin O'Donnell, who is a Libertarian candidate, and Thomas Sharp V, who is running under a progressive Bull Moose party. But there's not much to say. This seat's likely to safe blue. So let's move on. New Jersey. Bit of a similar situation. New Jersey, Cory Booker is the incumbent. Rick Mahentna is the Republican candidate, who's a pharmaceutical executive and attorney. And, there's some other candidates like Madeline Hoffman, who's a Green. There's a candidate called Daniel Burke, who is running under a political party called LaRouche was right, which he was not. It's a safe blue seat, so there's not much else to say. New Mexico is, again, another safe blue seat. The only difference is this is a safe blue seat that is not going to be having the incumbent return. Tom Udall is retiring, and New Mexico District 3 Representative Ben Ray Lujan is going to be the Democratic nominee in this election. It's a likely to safe D seat. And Udall's back in Lujan. I should mention the Republican opponent is former KRQE chief meteorologist Mark Ronchetti. But there's not much else to say. This is a Senate seat that I've talked about for a little while now because it's my home turf, North Carolina. The Senate seat in North Carolina is contested between Tom Tillis and Cal Cunningham, with Libertarian Shannon Bray and Constitution Party candidate Kevin Hayes running as, other candidates. This is, another highly favorable seat. Most political pundits put it as a toss-up. Quite a few Democrats and the DSCC put all their money and effort into Tillis. And, not Tillis, Cunningham. Be funny if they did put it behind Tillis. And Cunningham is winning majority of the polls down here, so might be saying Senator Cunningham pretty soon. Tillis is notably the more weak senator, so makes sense. The next Senate seat is Oklahoma. The Senate candidates are Jim Wenhoefne, Imhoff, and Abby Broyles. Imhoff is the incumbent. There's some independents and libertarian candidate, but it's mostly safe R. Eric Swalwell apparently felt the need to endorse Abby Broyles, which is stupid. Swalwell, no offense. Nobody's looking for your endorsement, dude. Sorry. Okay, so the next Senate race is Oregon. Jeff Merkley, Joe Ray Perkins, and Ibrahim Tanir. Merkley is going to win 100%. Next race. I'm not going to go more in depth because there's no need to go more in depth. It's a safe blue seat. Rhode Island? Probably the same thing. Jack Reed is the incumbent. Alan Waters and Lenine Camacho are two of his opponents. It's a safe D. Pretty much all I gotta say. South Carolina. Now this is a safe R seat, but it's also a safe R seat that is also getting a lot of money and effort put into it for some reason. Okay, so here's the thing. Lindsey Graham is of course the incumbent, and Jamie Harrison is the DSCC endorsed candidate that everybody was putting all their effort and money into. Harrison, I don't know necessarily everything about him, but I do know one thing. He's probably wasting his time or trying to set himself up for another Senate seat, one that's more likely to flip. I don't know. Next is South Dakota. Mike Pounds is the Republican incumbent, and his Democratic opponent is Daniel Alhiers. He was the only one who qualified for the ballot. It's a safe R seat, so there's not really much really going on for that. Tennessee, You're the only 10 I see. Haha, get it? Everybody makes that joke because they're funny. Okay, so Tennessee. The Republican primary is... Okay, so Lamar Alexander, the current Republican incumbent, is not running. And there are quite a few Republicans running. Terry Discus, Tom Emerson Jr., George Flynn Jr., Bill Haggerty. Is there any polls suggesting who the candidate will be? Come on, give me a poll. Yes, polling. Bill Haggerty is winning all the polls. Let's see who Bill Haggerty is endorsed by. Tom Cotton. Donald Trump, of course. He's endorsed by Donald Trump, so Bill Haggerty's probably going to be the Republican nominee. Okay, so who are the Democrats putting up? There's Robin Kimbrough Hayes, an attorney and clergy who I'm endorsing. There's Mark Perkel, Marquita Brenshaw, and James Mackler, who ran for this seat in the last election, but dropped out to endorse Phil Bredesen, who was the shoe-in for that last Senate seat. There's some independents, but not many of them are really worth noting. It's a safe bar seat. And no matter who is the nominee, Mackler's the favorite to win. So that's pretty much all I'm going to say on that. Texas. Texas is very interesting because the Democrats, they still haven't finished their election. The Democrats actually are still holding they're holding a runoff with MJ Heger, who's the DSCC endorsed candidate, facing off against Royce West. And it seems that a majority of the, other candidates are kind of backing West. Like Christina Tutanjun Ramirez, who was seen as the, real progressive. Well, the majority of them are now backing Royce West. So, it seems that Royce West is kind of the progressive candidate in the seat. Now, at least. But, MJ Heger is the expected one to be the nominee. And here's the thing. Despite what many people want to do and try to make Texas blue, it's not there yet. MJ Heger and Royce West are both, and all of the people who have been put up as potential candidates against Cornyn, the only one who could have potentially done anything was Robert Francis O'Rourke, but he chose to not run, ergo, nothing. It's the problem when people actually don't try to use their politicalness to their advantage. He could have won, but he did not. So then he was like, oh well, moving on. At least Hickenlooper and Bullock decided they were actually going to try to do it. Next is Virginia, a southern state who has a result that you might not entirely expect. Mark Warner, he's the Democratic incumbent, and an Army veteran named Daniel Gade is the Republican opponent. It's really shocking to see that there's a Democrat in the South. And this is a safe blue seat, so again, not much else to say. West Virginia is interesting because Shelley Moore Capito is facing off against progressive Democrat Paula Jean Swearengin. Now, yes, I like the momentum of Paula Jean Swearengin and Bernie Sanders and Richard Ojeda and all of us putting our effort into Paula Jean Swearengin, but we also got to be slightly realistic in realizing it's a safe red seat, so there is a hurdle we got to get over. I'm not saying don't fight, but I'm saying the fight is going to be quite a big one. Okay, so the last Senate seat is the 2020 Senate race in Wyoming. There are quite a few Republicans running, but the only one that is worth mentioning is the one who's most likely going to be the Republican nominee, Cynthia Lummis. She's the most high profile, so naturally she's going to be the most likely to be the nominee. The Democratic race is going to be slightly different. See, there are some people who are technically high profile, but there's no polling to indicate who really would be the most likely to win. There are quite a few people running. Merev Ben David, Kenneth R. Kastner, James Kirk DeBrine, Yana Ludwig, Nathan Wendt, and Rex Wild. I would say probably Rex Wild or Kenneth Kastner is going to be the winner, but Yana Ludwig is more likely going to be quite a few good. I'm endorsing her, so I think she should get a chance. But again, it's a safe red seat, so there's, again, not much else to say. So, from the results you can gather, it is safe. Not safe, things could change. But as of now, many people are predicting that the Senate is likely to make a bit of a flip to the Democrats. I'll be fair. That's from the data that I have, that's pretty much the most reasonable way you can say. Anyways, that's pretty much all I'm going to say. So, thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the future video of mine comes out. And if you're interested in more content from me, you can go to my website or follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or join my Discord, or check out my articles on the Independent Political Report.